What does it feel like to have your world, built on whispered promises and stolen moments, collapse in a single, shattering instant? For Emily, that moment came on a stormy Thursday evening, the kind where the sky seemed to mirror the chaos brewing inside her. She stood in the opulent living room of the man she thought she knew, her heart pounding like a war drum. Richard, her lover, her escape, her everything, had promised her a future. But the crumpled letter in her hand told a different story, a story of betrayal that cut deeper than any knife. Emily had met Richard 2 years ago at a charity gala, where his charm and confidence had drawn her in like a moth to a flame. He was older, married, but he swore his marriage was a hollow shell, a formality he was working to dissolve. Emily, a successful interior designer with a life of her own, hadn't wanted to be the other woman. But Richard's words were honeyed, his touch electric, and his promises of a shared life felt like salvation from her own loneliness. She believed him. She built her dreams around him. And now, the lettera careless missive from another woman, found tucked in his briefcase, revealed the truth. Richard hadn't just been cheating on his wife. He'd been cheating on Emily, too. The letter was from someone named Claire, written in a tone that was both intimate and possessive. It spoke of secret trips, late-night calls, and a love that sounded eerily like the one Richard had sworn was Emily's alone. The words burned into her mind. "You said I was your only one, Richard. Don't keep me waiting forever." Emily's vision blurred with tears, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of rage, of humiliation, of a heart that had been played like a cheap fiddle. She flung the letter to the floor, her breath ragged, and grabbed the nearest Tina crystal wine glass and hurled it against the wall. It shattered, the sound swallowed by the thunder outside. How could she have been so blind? She paced the room, her heels clicking against the polished hardwood, her mind racing through every moment she'd spent with Richard. The late-night dinners, the stolen weekends, the way he'd look at her like she was the only woman in the world. Lies. All of it. She wanted to scream, to tear down the perfect life he'd built around his deceit. But where was he? Hiding, like a coward, in the garage of his sprawling suburban mansion, probably thinking he could wait out her fury. Emily stormed toward the door that led to the garage, her hands trembling with the need to confront him. But as she reached for the handle, a new sound stopped her cold as soft, hesitant knock at the front door. Who could it be at this hour in this storm? She froze, her anger momentarily eclipsed by curiosity. Wiping her eyes, she opened the door to find a young woman standing there, soaked to the bone, her face pale and her eyes wide with something like fear. "Emily," the woman asked, her voice barely audible over the rain. "I'm Claire." Emily's heart stopped. Claire, the name from the letter. The other woman. She was younger than Emily, maybe mid-20s, with delicate features and a nervous energy that made her seem almost fragile. But there was a fire in her eyes, too, a mirror of Emily's own pain. For a moment, neither spoke, the air between them thick with shared betrayal. Emily's first instinct was to slam the door, to shut out this living proof of Richard's lies. But something in Claire's expression, raw, unguarded hurt made her pause. "I found your name in his phone," Claire said, her voice breaking. "I didn't know about you. I swear. I thought I was the only one." She pulled out a crumpled photo from her pocket, showing her and Richard laughing on a beach somewhere. Emily recognized the smile on his face, the same one he'd given her 100 times. Her stomach churned. The two women stood there, strangers bound by a man's deceit, and Emily felt a shift inside her. Her rage, once a wildfire, began to focus, sharpening into something colder, more deliberate. "Come in," she said finally, stepping aside. Claire hesitated, then followed, dripping water onto the pristine floor. They sat across from each other, the silence heavy, until Claire spoke again. He told me his wife didn't understand him, Claire said, her voice barely above a whisper. He said he was leaving her. For me, Emily laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. He told me the same thing, word for word. The realization hit them both like a slap. Richard hadn't just betrayed them. He'd scripted their lives, feeding them the same lies, the same promises, like a director staging a play. Emily's mind flashed to the garage, where Richard was likely cowering among his tools and car parts, oblivious to the storm he'd unleashed. She wanted to drag him out, make him face them both, but Claire's next words stopped her. "I'm pregnant," Claire said, her voice trembling. "I found out last week. I thought he'd be happy. But when I told him, he just shut down. Said he needed time. That's when I found your texts." Emily's breath caught. Pregnant. The word was a bomb, detonating the last of her illusions about Richard. She looked at Claire, at the fear and defiance in her eyes, and saw not a rival, but a mirror. They were both victims of the same man, their lives tangled in his web of lies. But in that moment, Emily realized something else. They didn't have to be defined by his betrayal. "We don't need him," Emily said, her voice steady for the first time that night. "He doesn't get to win." Claire looked at her, surprised, but a spark of understanding passed between them. Emily stood, her resolve hardening. "Let's go get him." They marched to the garage, the rain pounding against the windows like a drumbeat to their purpose. Emily flung open the door, and there he was, Richard, crouched beside his vintage Mustang, his face pale and pathetic in the dim light. He looked up, his eyes darting between the two women, and for the first time, Emily saw him for what he was, not a charming savior, but a small, selfish man who'd built his life on lies. "Emily, I can explain," he started, but she cut him off. "No," she said, her voice like steel. "You don't get to talk. You don't get to charm your way out of this." Claire stepped forward, her hands clenched, tears streaming down her face. "You lied to me, Richard. You lied to us both. And now I'm carrying your child, and you're hiding like a coward." Richard's face crumpled, his excuses dying in his throat. He looked from Emily to Claire, then back again, as if searching for a way out. "Get out," Emily said, her voice low and final. "And don't come back." Claire nodded, her own resolve mirroring Emily's. Richard stammered, tried to protest, but the weight of their combined strength silenced him. He grabbed his keys and fled into the storm, leaving the two women standing in the garage, the rain washing away the last traces of his presence. In the weeks that followed, Emily and Claire became unlikely allies. They supported each other, not as rivals, but as survivors, rebuilding their lives piece by piece. Emily helped Claire prepare for motherhood, while Claire reminded Emily of her own strength. They didn't need Richard's promises to define them. They had each other, and in that, they found something far more valuable than his love, the power to reclaim their own stories. And as for Richard, he faded into the background, a man diminished by his own choices, left to face the consequences of a life built on deceit. Emily and Claire, though, stood tall, their hearts bruised but unbroken, proof that even in the wreckage of betrayal, there is room for redemption, for connection, for a new beginning.